Hello there, it's Michael Furlong from rentrollmaximiser, and as part of our process and our series of converting our paper checklists across into PropertyMe, this particular tutorial is going to focus on the process that we need to follow when we have conducted a rental minimum standards inspection. We've received a report, and within that report there have been non-compliant items or recommendations identified, and this training video goes through the process of how we manage those up to the stage of rectification, maybe replacement, or even repairing those particular items. So the workflow that we're going to have a look at is workflow number 15. If we come across to our templates and we look down to here, it's the 2025 Rental Minimum Standards Inspection Report. Now what I'm going to do is I'll work through, if we have a look at our Trello board also, because some people won't have access to PropertyMe, they may be using another platform. It might be Property Tree, it might be Colmeo, it might be Our Property, and they may not have the features for workflows. And if they do, then they can convert the workflow exactly the same as we have here. So 37.15, audit number 15, 2025 rental minimum standards, non-compliant items and recommendations. It's the process to manage those. The audit of the 2025 rental minimum standards may be undertaken by a department manager as part of the ongoing monthly property management file, or it may be done by a virtual assistant as part of the agency document audits or a health check, or maybe an operational due diligence. It's certainly something that needs to be managed on an ongoing basis. All properties need to comply with the rental minimum standards, and in order for us to be able to demonstrate reasonable belief that the property does comply, we need to have a number of different points or documents to be able to then show, if we're ever questioned by maybe consumer affairs, if we're ever questioned as to our belief, what was our evidence, what was our belief, how did we come to that conclusion, these are the aspects that we're able to then demonstrate. All owner documents should be saved in an external directory like a Google Drive, and if I come across to our drive here, I've already pre-populated a few documents from a non-compliant report so that I can demonstrate those. But what we need to be able to do is to have our rental minimum standards inspection authority, we need to have our rental minimum standards declaration, we need to maybe have a disclosure statement, and this is primarily for Victorian real estate agencies, because other states across the country and into New Zealand, they don't have the same rental minimum standards that we do here in Victoria. So this is primarily the way in which a Victorian agency would need to manage their reasonable belief and their evidence that the properties comply. All properties throughout the portfolio need to have a rental minimum standards workflow, except if there was a property that was periodic prior to the 29th of March 2021 and has remained periodic, then the rental minimum standards at this stage don't apply to that particular property. It's important to ensure that only the tenancy and renter documents are saved against the renter, and all the other documents are saved in the owner card. Any tenancy documents saved in the owner section will not be archived. Now let's move through here. As part of the minimum standards audit, ensure to update the labels. When the owner returns the rental minimum standards declaration, check to confirm that all 15 standards have been ticked as compliant. Any item noted as non-compliant needs to be addressed directly with the owner. So when you've updated your rental minimum standards declaration and you've sent that out to the owner, and when it's come back, if they've not ticked yes to all 15 items, that's a red flag, and it's really important that you raise that. You make some diary notes as well, because again, what we're looking to do is to create a whole series of points as evidence if we were ever questioned by consumer affairs as to the agency's position. Rename the document using the file naming process and version control. I'll show you that in a moment. Upload the most recent current documents to the workflow and inside the owner card. If the document is non-compliant, invalid or declined, then upload the document not visible to the owner. And in that scenario, if we were to come back to the property and we're uploading a particular document, we can either upload it and hide it from the client, or we can upload it and show the client. Now the client will be able to see these through their portal access. So that's what we're saying here, is if there's a document which is clearly not compliant, or it's invalid, or it's old, then we would not show that to the owner. We would still upload it, but it'd be in the hidden section until a stage where we can actually replace that, and then we would show it to the owner. Remove any older documents from PropertyMe and ensure that they're saved in the Google Drive or in the property folder directory. So let's just come through this. So these are the points that are here. It's just a little bit easier to read in the Trello card, and I can check them off as I go along. Only create this workflow for this property if there has been a rental minimum standards inspection conducted and the inspection report has identified items which deem the property non-compliant, or there are recommendations that need to be actioned. So not every property needs to have this particular workflow, whereas the audit number 9, every property needs to have that unless the rental agreement or the tenancy was entered into and is periodic prior to the 29th of March 2021 and remains periodic. So these are really only an adjunct or an extension to audit number 9. This workflow is designed to assist the agency manage the repairs, maintenance, replacement or rectification of any non-compliant or any recommendations uncovered, identified and reported within the rental minimum standards inspection report. Step 1. Use this audit workflow in conjunction with audit number 9, the 2025 minimum standards reasonable belief audit. Adjust the labels in the property card, highlighting each compliant item, each non-compliant item or recommendation stated in the report. So if we were to have an issue with, for example, the switchboard was non-compliant, then we would make a note of that as features non-compliant switchboard, or upgrade required. Maybe the heating needs to be upgraded. The example I'm going to show you, they've identified 5 or 6 of the rooms that have mold. So there might be mold and ventilation issues in through to there. Might be water ingress. There could be window furnishings that are sheer and you can see straight through. So they're the ones that you want to make notes of. So use those labels so that the next person that's looking at the file is able to then identify really quickly what's there. Refer to the rental minimum standards inspection report to shape the relevant actions for this workflow. There are more than 30 possible issues across 15 standards which may be relevant. And what do I mean by that? So what I've done is I've gone and I've looked at a whole range of different inspection reports that have come back as failed. I've looked at about 40 or so, and I've pulled out some common points or non-compliant items or some recommendations that that have shown up inside of those reports, and I've used those as a pre-populated set of examples. Remove the line items that are not relevant for this property. There is a range of different pre-populated recommendations to select from. Now again, if you've got 3 items, so maybe there is issues with the hot water, issues with the vermin-proof bin, and issues with the locks. So you would remove all of the other key points around ventilation, heating, window cords, structural soundness. All of those would be removed and only keep the ones that are relevant for this particular property. So just because that's sitting in the template doesn't mean that we need to keep them all there, and we're deleting those items, we're not checking them off. If we check those items off, if we check the items off here, then that indicates that it's actually been closed off. So if we were to come into a property, then what we would do is we come across to here and we would delete that particular item. The due date for this workflow should be the same same inspection date of the rental minimum standards inspection reports. The same as the inspection date. And so if we have a rental minimum standards inspection report, which was done in October of 2025, so 15th of October 2025, that's the due date on this workflow, which is different to our other workflow. The other workflow we've used the same anniversary date, being the 1st of April 2024. Step 6, print to PDF each page or pages from the report that highlights a non-compliant item or recommendation and upload the PDF to this workflow to assist track the repair and rectification. I've done that. In this example, there is 5, maybe 6 of the rooms that have mold issues. And so I've gone into the report and I've saved those as each individual. So the report is 74 pages. But what I've done is I've gone to the particular pages and I've printed those ones as a PDF. So it might be pages 16, 17 and 18, and that's for the bathroom. And that will be saved and it'll be highlighted. So you'll be able to see when I upload those exactly how easy it is to follow this workflow. Attach any invoices, work orders, pictures, reports to the workflow to substantiate the work has been completed. That's really important so that you can create timelines, particularly if you're ever questioned or if you had a fine that was imposed by Consumer Affairs. You need to be able to substantiate and present evidence that you've conducted yourself in accordance with your managing agency authority, plus also good agency practice. Step 8, ensure that detailed notes are recorded within this workflow for each of the recommendations. So if you've allocated some of the work, so say there was 3 recommendations. One was for a builder, the other one was for an electrician, and the other one was for the window installer, or maybe the council. You've written to the council to get the bins. So what you're doing is for each of the items, you're making detailed notes. So I've written to the local council and we need to get new bins. I've sent out work orders for the builder, and I've also engaged the electrician to update the switchboard, and I'm getting quotes for new window furnishings. And so you're making 3 or 4 different sets of notes, and then you're tracking all the information inside this workflow. The property must comply with all 15 rental minimum standards, otherwise the property is deemed non-compliant. Now you can have a non-compliant report, and once you've done all of the reports, all of the rectification, then the report is still non-compliant, but the work has been done. So the property is compliant, but the report that you have on file can't be changed unless you get the same company to go back, or a different company to go back and do another report. So once a report is deemed non-compliant, it stays non-compliant. You can't modify that. You can't change the report prefix. It always has to be non-compliant. The work, this is why we're spending the time in building the workflow, to be able to then say, here's the evidence that we had a non-compliant report and there were a number of items that were deemed non-compliant or recommendations. And here is our work, and this is what we've done to rectify, repair, replace those particular items. So now the property is compliant. It's really, really important to understand that logic behind it. The agency is required to ensure the property meets all 15 rental minimum standards prior to advertising the property online. That's Section 65 of the Residential Tenancies Act 1997. It's recently introduced on the 25th of November 2025. Puts the responsibility back onto the agent to ensure that they have reasonable belief. So 68B, I think that's what I said. They have reasonable belief that the property meets the rental minimum standards. Otherwise, they're restricted from placing the property online, or, of course, if they do, they could be fined. Not only would they be fined, but their owner would be fined as well. Only close this task once there is written evidence that any or all items identified in the inspection report have been rectified to a satisfactory level. Once this task has been completed, then the audit number 9, 2025 minimum standards, reasonable belief audit can be closed. Once the items have been rectified, remove the specific recommendation labels from the property card, and when all items have been rectified, update the labels to indicate the property complies with all 15 rental minimum standards. Now, as you are watching this particular video, the rental minimum standards for the 15 that I'm referring through to are in the Schedule 4 of the Residential Tenancies Regulations. And here are the checklists that we are going to go through. And what I will do is I will use this particular property. I'm going to go across, here's our steps, and here's our checklist. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to work across to a property where I've already added this in, because I've conducted the workflow number 9, and we've identified, in this particular instance, window coverings. So I created, as part of this automation, I created the workflow. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to assume that this new workflow, so we've got our steps here, if we needed to ask any questions or need some clarity. And so the very first thing we're going to start to do is we will now work across this particular item. So we don't actually need the tenants, but that's okay. We've got them in there now. No tenant, we can remove them inside of here. Now the workflow date I had here was from the other report, and so what I'll do is I'll change that in a second once we open up the report. Now we're starting to work on this one, so I can remove the label and I can put in a whip inside of here. Now, step 1, when completing the audit, consider and delete any of the options not applicable to this property. So I'll close that off. That's going to change the status to in progress. So we're now working through this particular task. Now, as I indicated, there's more than 30 or so possible non-compliant items or recommendations that I've copied and duplicated into the workflow. Most of those will not be relevant for this particular property. So let's just have a look at the report that I've selected. And here we are here. I'll open this up. And so the property is not relevant, it's only a demo. And so what I'm looking at here as I go through, I've got the rental minimum standards. So mold and dampness is the issue. And if we look here, we've got main living area, dining area, bathroom, laundry, and bedroom 2. So the rest of the property complies, and it's a 72-page report. And rather than go through all 72 pages and try and work through this, for the next person it makes it very difficult. So because I'm completing the report, what I've done is I've already gone and I've saved these documents. I've got non-compliant report summary. So I've gone to the front of this particular report. Now, different companies have different ways of presenting their reports. So I've gone to I'll do a split page here, and they've got, that's the report summary. So that's 15 pages. So I'm going to save that. Then what I'm going to do is I've already saved from the main report. I've already gone and saved, and you can see the file naming convention. So it's non-compliant, mold and dampness. Then I've got bathroom, bedroom 2, dining room, laundry, and living room. And they're all exactly the same. So I can see the date, so 30th of August 2022. So I can come back over to here. So I say 30th 08 2022. So that's irrespective of when I'm completing the task, I'm saving this of that particular date. Now, everything else was compliant using workflow number 9. The only thing that's not compliant is, if we have a look at these, we're going to say, we've got door locks, remove. Door locks in through to here, and I'm not going to sit and have you watch all of them. So I'll remove them as I go. I'll come back in a second. But we have our vermin-proof bins, our door locks, damage bins, toilet ventilation, shower rows, bathroom and laundry, hot and cold water supply, bathroom ventilation. Now what I would do is, because it's indicated mold and dampness, I would leave those there. So I'm going to leave the bathroom ventilation. Missing window coverings in the bathroom, no mention of that. Cooktops, no mention of that either. I'll just go through and just double check these. Structural soundness, I might actually leave that open. Building cracking, no. Text fascia, water ingress, I might leave those as well. And so, actually I won't check them off because I can't delete them. Rain should, delete. Oven, delete. And you can start to see the way that I'm building this out. Come back up to here, vermin-proof bins. I will actually let you sit and watch all this. Okay, so toilet hasn't been mentioned. Shower rows, not an issue. Bathroom and laundry, hot and cold supply of water, not an issue. Bathroom ventilation, we've got mold and dampness, so I'm going to leave that. Laundry ventilation, got mold and dampness, I'm going to leave that. Structural soundness, I'm going to leave that because it's with reference to water ingress. So I don't know where the water's coming from. It might be ventilation, it might be structural soundness, but I'm going to leave that for now. Building cracking, weatherboards, well, I'll delete that one because there's no mention of that in the report. Damaged fascia, eaves, gutters, no mention of that. Water ingress, I'll leave that. Mold and dampness, I'm going to leave that. Mold in caulking, there's no mention of that. It's actually, it's more paint that's coming off. So failed waterproof membrane, no mention of that at all. It's actually the ceiling. RCDs, nothing. Windows coverings, delete that. Window covering to shear, that's the example I've used. Open windows, there's no mention at all. All windows seem to be okay. But there might be a situation, okay, rotting timber window frames. I've got that because I've seen the photographs. Natural light, and it's rotting because there's water and condensation that's occurring. In those rooms. Almost done. So window cords is fine. And okay, so now we've gone and deleted all of those items that are not relevant, and we've got our current issues. And so if I look back at the summary, we had issues with mold and dampness, and here we are. So I've got mold and dampness in the main living area, the dining room, main bathroom, and laundry. And so what we would need to do is send a tradesperson out to investigate that. But what I've been able to do is, as I said, I've gone and I've saved all of these reports of the particular pages. And so I'll open up one of these pages here now. So bedroom. And so I've pulled out the specifics. So it's 3 pages here instead of the 74. I don't want to be sending off 74 pages to a tradesperson and say, please read this, because there's a real high probability of an error occurring. So what I've done is I've identified the 3 pages here where it actually references bedroom 2 does not meet the criteria. And so over here, same thing, bathroom does not meet the criteria. And I've saved that. That's 3 pages as well. Laundry, 3 pages. See the moisture meter. And so I'm saving all of those. So I'm going to come back through to here and I've got those items. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to I'm uploading. That's not what I want to do. Didn't like that when I did it all together. So now I have these items here. I can then reference my notes. So 25th, 3rd, 26th. When auditing the minimum standards inspection report from 30th, 8th, 2022. Conducted by PCV, Property Compliance Victoria, PCV. There were multiple rooms that had failed, mold and dampness, including laundry, bathroom, living, dining, and bedroom 2, as per the following documents. And so then I would do I would inform the property manager, and now what I'm doing is I'm saving my notes. I've uploaded the information, and then either myself or the property manager would come across and or a virtual assistant would engage someone to go out to get a work order to conduct this, and then all the work order information would be saved in here. All the quotes, all the invoices, any due dates. If it was a tradesperson that attended, then I'd be writing da 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 da. If there was an email, I'd be copying that into here as well. So all the information would save in here. And then when we've completed the task, I would also then make sure I've got the notes here. So refer to the inspection report, print a PDF. Yes, I've done that. Use the disclosure label. Now, so what we would have, if I come across now to the property, I'm going to, the property doesn't meet minimum standards, and I use that window covering. So we have a compliant switchboard, compliant heating, but what we have is mold. So we need to, we've got this, you can see disclosure, mold and dampness. We don't have a mold and dampness report, but we do have mold noted on the inspection report, so we need to note that. So we've got mold, so maintenance, action required, and mold, and non-compliant recommendation. So now what we're doing is we're updating our labels. So use the disclosure label, done. Non-compliant recommendation, so we've now got these. So we have non-compliant or a recommendation, bathroom ventilation, create a new job and action for this. And so what I would do is I would go out and I would be creating a job for a tradesperson to go and have a look at all of these. Now, I would be probably also looking for further information. Maybe I myself look back through the most recent inspection reports. So whether it was an ingoing vacate, routine, 3-month, and I'd be going to have a look at these items. Has there been significant increase in the timber damage? Do we have any mold in the ceilings that we can see? Was there water ingress? Was there a leak? And I'd be looking at those as well. And all communications with the owner, I'd be making sure I kept that as well. We've updated the reports. Yep. Upload the checklist. We've done that. and create detailed notes from the audit for the missing documents inside of here. So once the repair has been completed, then what I would do is I'd come across, and only once it's completed and satisfactory, I would close those off. Now, I certainly wouldn't be deleting them because they were the items that were the issue for audit number 9. And then I'd do is create detailed notes. So all of my notes were there, all my invoices were there, that's all updated. And I would close that off, and then I would close off the task. And the task will be completed. That's the way in which we were able to manage that. Of course, once we've done all of the work. So that's what I'm have to reopen the task, and that's the way in which we would be going through and tracking all of the non-compliant or recommendations that come off the back of a rental minimum standards inspection report. I hope that that has helped you. If not, then feel free to reach out. You can grab some further information. There's other videos, there's training videos in through here. Plus also, as I said, you can reach out if you're unsure of the procedure. Alrighty, thanks for that. Have a great day.